everybody. Welcome to the Based Podcast. We have a special guest with us by the name Mike Rinne. We are super grateful to have him. What's up, man?
Thanks for having me, guys. Big fan.
He is
Congrats.
Thank you.
Love the podcast.
He's a Nashville session guy. He spent many years on the road with Miranda Lambert, Chester Thompson, Rodney Crowell, Emmylou Harris. Wow.
Yeah.
Played on a ton of session things. Kelsey Walden, Cale Tyson, Rayland Baxter, like him. Dierks Bentley, upcoming stuff.
Yep.
Lots, like Bailey Zimmerman. So many things. So many. Thanks for coming.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm a big fan of the podcast. Congrats on everything that's been going on, man. It's cool.
It's amazing to hear.
Really great. You guys are like crossing the bass genres too, I think, really well, which is cool. Not just
thank you
a certain, genre or anything, but love.
We actually try really hard to do that.
Great.
So with that, we are back to the country rock Nashville feeling vibe.
Nashville vibes. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about where you first started. Once you get to that point where you're like, okay, I'm stepping out, I can go on tour, maybe the Miranda tour, all that kind of stuff. What got you there?
Well, from the beginning, or maybe just
whatever.
Well,
whatever matters.
I think when I moved to Nashville, I moved in a band from Arkansas.
Okay.
And we didn't have we just wanted to be like rock stars, but we also had to go to school. So we went to colleges around Nashville and moved here. And it was when I went to college that the band broke up pretty much 6 months after we moved here. But of course, Nashville was great. And I had a roommate named Ben Sanders who told me he wanted to be a session musician. And he told me about Stuart Duncan because he's a fiddle player at the time. And I just started, I'd never heard that term, really. I'd read that term, but I'd never really thought about it as a career. And that was in 2006 or 7. And that was when that kind of pinged my radar of wow, that's amazing because you're not in a band and you get to do all this huge variety of people and artists and not just, work with one artist necessarily. So, but it took a lot, it's taken me basically that entire time to be doing that for the last few years. So, of course, was open to every opportunity. And really when I started, it was just yes. The answer is just yes. And I was early 20s and took everything. I was playing brunch gigs and church gigs and starting to try to play with artists and songwriters. That was something that hit me at a certain point. With an older bass player told me, actually the great Dave Rowe, who's passed on, amazing bass player, toured with Johnny Cash for many years and all these amazing people. Something he had told me is you gotta work with, songwriters and get out there in that realm and not just be a musician, and
Love
not
it.
just be
That's
playing, jazz or classical or things that are, for musician's sake, or, if you want to get, have a career doing this. So that was really helpful in it. Really, I started playing with songwriters for free, of course, just hey,
right.
And I was also at a time, I got a MySpace message, from a guy named Bo Brannon who said, I'm Andrew Combs' manager, and they were both at Belmont and he was his manager. Shout out to Bo and to Andrew. And they were like, we have a show at the Basement. Can you play bass? It's like, yes, through MySpace back in 08, probably, or 07. So that was kind of cool.
Great year.
Yeah, but it was amazing to go to the Basement and just kind of become immediately immersed in all of the great songwriter scenes that are in Nashville and different, bands and, genres of that world. So that was huge at the beginning. I was almost like, yeah, I'll go play this church gig and a brunch gig for money, and then go
Absolutely.
Play a songwriters round or with somebody who asked me to play, or go hop in the van and go to, Chattanooga or Knoxville or whatever for a night just to play with somebody.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was
just
huge.
snowballed.
And keeping that going. And, you know, meeting more and more people. And then Rodney Crowell was the first call that I felt, you know, like, okay, oh shit, maybe I'm going to, you know, have a career playing bass. And that was amazing to tour with him, learn so much about everything, about music and touring with him, and started in 2013. And then from there led to Emmylou Harris. And then I kind of stopped touring in 2016 and said, I'm going to stay in town. Traveled out a little bit, had really traveled a lot. And then Miranda called, and that was that. You know, I was like, okay, this is too awesome to pass up, you know, playing with her. Oh, yeah. And I did that for 5 years, and then that ended, and it was time to really just be doing sessions, which I've been doing for the last almost 3 years. So
nice.
Yeah, man.
The artist I play with, Abby Hamilton, close friend, she's the one that was like, "Hey, you need to check out Mike.
Thanks.
You need to at least." I
don't know Abby, but
I've
been
Facebook
a fan for a long time and love her music, love what you guys are doing. So
yeah, she's
awesome.
You. But she was like, "All right, she's a Miranda Lambert like super fan."
Oh, nice, good.
So
yeah,
that's where the crossover occurred.
I'm too, man. She's
and okay, so part of that advice that you got was to also start producing bands. Is that correct? Like, how did you make that transition?
Production always came out of me seeing someone or meeting someone and asking them like, hey, what's your plans for your record and why aren't you going? Because I was kind of, I was starting to work with different producers, mostly like indie producers, and in East Nashville a lot, and just wherever, and kind of getting introduced to all these great studios. One was with Andrew Combs, a studio called Gray Matters, that Mike Odemark ran. Shout out to Mike. And it was a great space. And, a lot of those rooms are way more affordable for an independent artist than walking into a big studio. So
yep,
I was just, a lot of it happened from, like started with Kelsey Walden, and just knowing that, she was undeniable, like human and artist and talent, and seeing her on stage, just like sing her songs, just always blew me away from the moment I met her. And I thought, you have to do that. And when I press at CD, that's what I thought at the time, when I put the CD in, that needs to go there. Right. And that's kind of it was. And, working with all kinds of people and saying yes all the time. You work with some people that you don't, you take note of what not to do. And I think that's obviously something I was always, with friends, trying to keep an eye out, like, are you sure you want to go work with that producer? If I knew that they were maybe not, they were doing their thing, which wasn't always at the, having the artist's best interests, whether it be budget or whatever, points or recording, even just studio, just players, so many things like that. So I always walked into those production roles from really believing in these artists that I to me, it's amazing to see them now. Like it's amazing to see Abby on the Opry, man. How cool is that? Like that's awesome. So cool. And I remember when Kelsey first played the Opry, and all these folks that I've worked with, just because, I've done some cool shit, played some cool gigs, but like watching friends do things and achieve that's the best for me. But
Nick got to do the Opry with Walker too.
Nice.
So he's graced that stage.
Dude, it's amazing, right?
It rules.
It's cool.
Like, it's surreal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Kelsey Walden's awesome. Seeing her, and then our drummer Zach Martin was playing with her for a little while.
Great.
And that was cool. That was the only time I was around them.
Yeah, I don't know. Did I answer that question fully? Really, what I meant was, helping them make their records. Really, it's just like, hey, how are you going to do this? And it was it was hard.
Yeah.
If I did get paid, it was very low amounts, just to.
Sure,
right. Yeah, you got to pay that guy to mix it, but he's great, and it's going to sound great, and all that stuff. So
yeah,
right.
So along the way, you have been exposed to cool gear. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
you know where we're going.
Yeah,
you've been exposed to cool players. kind of what the taste is like for, what they want out of a session musician from behind the scenes. You have amazing taste in studio gear from me looking from afar.
Man. Yeah.
I bought a Cappy preamp off of you recently because I needed to fill out my little lunchbox.
Nice.
And
how you like it?
It's great. And for the price, it's bonkers. Yeah. So yeah, let's go there. If you're ready, to go there, let's go there.
Yeah.
So let's start with the bass collection. What is your bass collection like?
Well, I feel like I had at one point I had like 6 or 7 basses that were all around the same sound and around the same price range, and I just thought like, what, I had gotten one because it was like, either a really good deal or just something, it popped up and I was like, oh yeah, that I want to have that. So I would just, and I was single at the time, and just spend money. And then I've really whittled it down the last 2 years just because I don't, you can only get your hands on so much. And, life is just, moving in other directions too, of like, I don't need this bass. Maybe one day I'll have a bigger bass collection.
I know.
But yeah, yes, you do, man. How's it going?
Oh, it's great.
Yeah,
sorry.
Good.
You know,
Recent father over here. Are you sleeping?
A little bit.
Good.
It's gotten better.
It'll get better.
It's gotten better.
You won't even remember. You're not even going to remember this podcast because you're so sleep deprived.
Oh, I'm going to remember.
Now. You don't. I mean,
we're locked.
I don't remember that period of time when he was that young, my son. So it gets better. But I've really whittled it down to this bass here, which I'll show you.
Oh.
This is Karen. I can't really see my full. There, I'm going to do that so I can see. Yeah.
Beautiful.
That's the background music.
I like. Let me help you out.
But man, from the light, when it was sitting back there, it almost looked like the gray of that Sean Hurley signature.
Oh,
and
yeah.
And then you pulled it up, and I was like, "Oh, it's a nice sunburst."
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us about it.
It's a 60p, and it was on eBay. Ooh. Believe it or not, I was looking for like a 59, 60, 61 for 2 or 3 years, and saw this one on eBay pop up, and there were 2 different pictures of it with different backgrounds. They were both grainy photographs. The subject line of this bass in the eBay, it was a traditional eBay bid, like just a traditional open bid. 1960 Fender Precision BASE.
Yeah. What year is this?
So I think it just
what year are you buying it?
21. Yeah, 2021.
Okay. So
pretty
this is a year that they should have known what they had.
Oh yeah, for sure. And it just went through a bid, but I think so many people were probably scared to bid on it because it had these 2 different photos. The shipping price was like $20, which didn't make any sense.
Yep.
And I bought it kind of like going, I don't know. I really don't know, but I bought it and it had a good deal on it. And then I messaged them and I was like, I don't know if you guys have shipped instruments before, because I could tell it was everything else on their page was like knickknacks from estates. So it was like 2 ladies doing estate sales. And they said, we haven't, but it'll be all right. We got a buddy who's a musician and he'll pack it up real good for us, and I was just kind of like, okay, could I pick it up Saturday?
Yeah.
And they were outside of Minneapolis, and I just, or maybe I don't even remember.
Something with an
somewhere
M.
there.
M
and I had points, and I flew up and rented a car for the day and drove.
Yeah.
And got the bass and flew home. And it turned out it turned out not to be a lemon. I thought even if I got a lemon, the price, I could sell it and at least get my money back. But it turned out not to be a lemon and be, really. But anyway, I named her Karen because they sent me the obituary of the woman who it belonged to, who passed away. And she was from Arkansas, which was awesome, like me.
Nice.
And her name was Karen. And I thought Karen had got a really bad rap. All these last few years,
great.
The name Karen. Yeah. So I named it Karen.
I wasn't going to go there.
Yeah,
so I'm glad.
That's why. And then she was like this badass musician who was in the service, and she started the first all-female service band, like
Nice.
in the service. I can't remember if she was Navy or Army, and then she later in life became a truck driver.
That's
Drove big rigs, and I was
Karen's
just like,
awesome.
okay, she's way more badass than I'll ever be. That's the least I
Yeah.
can do. Thanks for the bass, and
That's awesome.
yeah. I also let me show you this too. Hang on, this was in the case, and I knew it was an old strap. I'm gonna kind of
That's that Hendrix strap.
well, yeah, dude. I was at a studio
Nice.
recently where the guy has all this rock and roll memorabilia, and he had like Bruce Springsteen's boots over there, and like a snare head signed by all the Beatles and all this stuff. And he had a framed one with these and some piece of paper signed by Hendrix. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, that's that strap, man. That must have
you
just
knew.
been. I think it's an Ace, right? Is the brand or whatever.
I couldn't tell you the brand, but
Anyway.
the white leather is what
It's-
makes that so interesting.
It's kind of sick, and that was in the case, so that must be. When I saw it, I was
That's
like,
a
"There's no
freebie.
way that's original." But
That's so cool.
yeah, so I lucked out with that.
Amazing.
So
Okay.
that's a if there's anybody listening to this who's hoping to get into professional bass world playing an electric bass, I can't encourage you enough to play and love the Fender Precision bass. I just don't know. I'm not really sure what sounds. I can't tell you how many times I go out and hear amazing musicians and I think to myself, man, that they're not the sound they would get from just me plucking that bass out of their hands and putting a P bass in their hands would just would just it's just kind of I don't know if it's some kind of Mandela effect with us and like why I think it's why like people love all those old Neumann microphones.
Uh-huh.
In some ways, it's like what we're familiar, like every recording in the 60s and before and after used these the 67, the M49 and all those
Sure.
things.
Yeah.
Or the C12 and all these classic microphones. Yes, they're amazing microphones. But are we just kind of familiar? Anyway, P bass is
They
that
shape-
for me.
right, they
Like,
shape
it's a
what is
it's
music.
it's kind of a bass. So that's the
Yeah.
bass, right? So anyway, that box for me is like, vintage P bass, but and it you could think of it as something I gravitate towards when it's a retro sounding thing or a Americana sounding thing. But really, even with modern sounding stuff, it's great. It
It does the thing.
It's just with any vintage instrument, you're going to have to gain it up a little bit more. So there's that to think about, but yeah,
Right.
it's really sweet.
Now, I'm not in on the vintage P game. I'm sure I will enter the vintage P game. My main is like just American P.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you the year, probably mid 2000s. I have bought a Music Man, a Rick, Jazz's, active stuff, Lakeland's. I always go back. I'm like the prodigal child, and my family is P bass. Like I come home to P bass. Like it's so funny, man, because you just play these gigs and you're like, all right, well, especially with you're playing such a wide variety, and it's like, yeah, it's gonna check every box.
Or
You're
if
playing
you've
rock
ever-
and roll.
Have you ever been at
P-bass.
home playing a jazz bass and felt like, yes, this is awesome, and then you go play the gig, and there's something about it. It's just you feel a little naked. Has that ever happened
Yep.
to you? Just
Yep.
jazz basses are amazing. So many amazing players that only play jazz basses, but yeah, it's hard to beat or replace.
Right.
Is a good-
I always go. I want to love jazz basses the way I love P basses, and then I'll
Yeah.
go play 15. I'll go over
Nice.
to Grun or
Yes.
whatever, and I'll sit there and I'll go, it ain't it. It's not it. I want the P.
Yeah.
I want the P.
And man, I think those two things on P basses too, if you're going to look for one, the really the mid 70s, which can be expensive. They can be,
Right.
Sure.
I'm not saying that's not expensive, but way more affordable than something super old. There's some too that have the, at that time, the necks could be P bass necks or jazz bass shaped necks, right? You guys know about that, maybe.
Or somewhere in between.
Yeah,
sometimes.
and I just think those are especially like for guys who play guitar too, are looking for a good P bass. Those 70s with you'll know it right away when you look at it. You'll see the skinnier neck profile. I don't know, remember what that is, 1.5, I guess, right, instead of 1.75.
Yeah.
And
something like
and then there's the made in Japan. I'm actually like thinking about looking for a made in Japan
Yeah,
80s.
I'm always looking. Yeah.
That's cool.
They're like
That's probably where I'll end up.
They're like
Or that
$1,200
first year of
right?
Squire.
Yeah, not bad.
First year Squire is really nice. Where I think they were Japanese at that point for like a year or 2
Probably
years.
the same.
And then they moved it to Indonesia. Maybe?
Yeah.
But there, or
Sounds right.
whatever that early run too of the American vintage reissue Japanese guitars were. Those weren't Squires; those were Fenders. But when they shut off the Fender California factories because they like their quality control was so bad that they turned it off for a year.
Wow.
And it was all Japanese.
Wow.
Those
That's
are the
so
ones.
Fender.
So
Wow.
yeah, I'm with you too. Well, so my P bass is an RS Guitar Works precision bass. It's great. It's a copy of an old one, slab board. The weight is like 8.5 pounds.
And I hope I'm clear when I say that. I mean P bass like that. I mean, any of the great. There's so many great makers now making great. I'm not trying to say you have to have a Fender P bass.
Yeah. No.
We know that. Yeah.
But, and I've strung it BEAD now.
Nice.
That's
okay.
my new jam.
Yeah.
Which I'm curious, playing as much pop as you do, or like pop country sometimes.
Yeah.
What is your experience? Are you a down tune guy?
I'm a down tune guy and a 5-string guy, but leads me to the next over here.
Next bass of choice.
Is this is a Sadowski P.
Yes.
It's the New York that I had Roger make just a couple years ago. I just got it last year. So
beautiful.
I love it. Yeah, and it's great. And it's D. So it's D, G, C, F, right?
Nice.
So it's just down a whole step. And it's flat wounds, labellas. I play all labellas.
Uh-huh.
And this isn't...
Is your other bass flat wounds?
No, I've got just nickel round wounds, labellas on Karen.
You keep Karen fresh
I don't name
or dead?
I don't name all the bases in either. That would be funny. But
going through the family tree.
Exactly. Are you a fresh rounds guy in the studio or a dead rounds guy?
Fresh. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
cool.
and what I mean fresh is broken in, but after 18 months, they're done. They're not, and are you guys fans of controversial opinions on this?
We love them.
Yes. Well,
hit me.
Yes. In the bass world, yes.
Pertaining to this is kind of a guitar bass thing, but I would love to know, when the knife gets dull, right? It's just dull, and it could get duller, but you got to sharpen the knife, right? To really cut. And there's something to me about the obsession in music world with old round wounds that I don't get. I wonder if there's a point at which they are dead enough. They are deadest. They will not get deader. Now, we know that's wrong, right? Maybe like
it's a half-life.
20-year-old strings. Okay, cool. But I don't know, man. I don't get that. I really don't. I don't get the, they gotta be 10 years old or what,
Rub them in jelly.
What's interesting about this, and was what maybe I like to think is interesting about the content we make, okay? If you are only consuming YouTube and YouTube adjacent content, both recording and bass, they are like, change your strings every time, like before you go to the studio, change them right now. Change them the moment before you get in the car. And so I want to be clear that that's not a straight out the pack. That's a play it for a week or wear it in a little bit. But there's a whole different culture that I am more exposed to. And like when my experience in the studio is they do not want super bright strings.
Right.
They are like, flats are awesome, round wounds are awesome too, but sometimes you pick up these studio instruments, you realize those round wounds are dead. Yeah. And they want them dead.
Yep.
It's like a culture thing. Like the YouTube guys have not really caught up. It's more like metal rock focused anyway.
That's wild. How much do you
dead
think
rounds are a thing?
Yeah, totally. Well,
no, go for it. What were you saying?
Well, they are a thing, but I wonder if one, like, years 1 through 15, is there much difference? You know what I mean? What is that scale, and how do we, because, and like I said, when I say new, a new fresh set of rounds, like on Karen over there, I just put those on maybe 6 weeks ago, and I'm really starting to like them now.
Okay,
amazing.
So that's
I'm
good.
with you.
I didn't even take it to a session for a week.
Right.
Just play it. And so I guess I don't mean to be contradicting myself, but I'm going to hit a point with those in a year from now, probably easily. That I'll just like, I'm ready
this is a sweet spot.
No, I think I might be ready to move. To grab them
you're
on
done.
again, where there's like certain areas of the bass or whatever just aren't speaking like I like them to.
Right.
When they, so anyway.
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit before, but I grew up just a guitar player, and I always was a Strat guy. And when you put new strings on a Strat, like 2 seconds in, like you get it barely holding tune, and you're like, all right, here comes Stevie Ray Vaughan. Like, that's just like, there's an energy to that. So it's kind of unnatural for me when I go to the bass strings to like find that how I genuinely feel about that, because I know the feeling of putting brand new, slick, wonderful, untouched strings on a Strat, and it's like you hear every like fret noise. You hear, it's awesome.
But then you go to this. Squeaks. The squeaks have squeaks. Yeah.
So I was playing my whole month has been a very, very like random gigs. So like tons of diverse stuff, a whole lot of cover stuff downtown and on the road. So I ended up going, all right, I got a P bass. The flats aren't really going to be perfect for it. I do the deep talking and I love them. Like they're fantastic. And I just was like, man, I got to do something. So I pulled them off and I put on the Ernie Ball Cobalts.
Okay.
Which fantastic so far.
Yeah. Very bright.
I've had them on since December 30th, maybe. I'm just now like,
nice.
Like, okay, we're coming up on something. But I do play, I think I've played 25 gigs this month already. Man. So like they've got mileage.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm happy to be working.
You're crushing, dude.
I'm trying.
In January? Jeez, man.
Dude, we can get this another time, but everybody's always like, dead season. And I'm like, people got to stop calling me. I got to be at home for a second. But I'm just totally kidding. Yeah. I'm so appreciative. But love it. Yeah, man, like they've gotten mileage. So I'm like, they're finally getting like, I always say, I'm not like a juju guy. I'm not like a magic and a mystic guy, but there's like a vibe to it. And when you get those strings, like, I was playing a couple weeks ago and somebody brought me, this is so funny. Somebody brought me a Modelo with a lime on the top mid-set. And I still had at least 2 hours to go on this like closer downtown. And I shoved that lime down in the bottle and all the juice came on my hands. Oh, yeah. Like just pure lime juice. No beer, just lime juice. It got all over my hands and all over my strings. And the strings felt like I had covered them in like sticky tack. Like it was like I couldn't move. So then I had to
top 40 on hard mode.
Insane. So then I'm like, guys, hold this bass for a second. I've got to run to the bathroom. I wet a paper towel and I come back and I literally wiped water down.
Delimed.
So I'm like, all this gunk is adding up to the weirdest tone concoction. You know what I mean? Like there's just some kind of life that you got to put the bass through a little bit. Guy
Clark would bury him in the dirt and then boil him. Man, that's true.
And boil them.
Yeah,
Sean Hurley does the grease, whatever it's called.
Oh, yeah.
Like he
what is that?
Greases down his flat wounds.
That's crazy.
So that I love this. I might even like pluck this little clip out of our podcast to upload by itself as a video. But there's a way different understanding when I hear a lot of bass content out there that's like, change your strings, man. How could you not?
I haven't heard that. I'm not familiar with that. And that's wild to me that people are saying that. Change your strings. That's the opposite of everything I've heard my entire life is never change your strings, right?
More overtones.
Yeah.
We like overtones. And I'm like, that is what no one wants to mix. Like you give that to a mix engineer and they're pissed. Well, and they'll just like darken it.
That brings me to a question for you guys, which is if you're playing a P bass, and this was something I would love to know, like really everyone. I want to know everybody I want to know this question. Where is your tone knob?
I was about to ask you that.
Yeah. I'm pretty much wide open. I just answered. I just interrupted you. I'm so sorry.
No, that's perfect. I'm pretty much wide open. I took Okay, my RSP bass. It's a blessing and a curse. It is squirrely. I'm about to put another string retainer on the A string because it vibrates, and the bass is so resonant that it is causing a different set of issues sometimes. It's almost it's too light.
Wow.
And it feels like riding an explosion when I play. I've deadened it in a lot of ways. It's not like creaking and
That's awesome, man.
it's not vibrating, but it's so hard to explain. My tech is not so thrilled every time I bring it because I'm so specific and I play really hard.
Yep.
And so my action is pretty high. Whatever. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I've had a love-hate relationship. Now that it's in BEAD, I love it even more.
Cool.
But I'm having to address some quirks. Sorry. Anyway, when I got it, I was like, okay, the people of yesteryear were able to buy a Fender bass and it would be a nitro finish and the finish would age naturally throughout their career. And I think there's something really beautiful about that. And that's a lot of the reason we like old basses now. So I was like, okay, this is a new bass. I chose to not have it relicked at all, even though they do a great job relicking there. And I was like, I want this bass to grow with me. So it's already kind of turning yellow. It's Olympic white. And so it's pretty yellow now. But the first thing I did was I found a spot in the tone knob that I was like, I want to find a couple defaults. And I took a knife and I was like, this bass is mine. And I have spots under my fingers that I'm like, here, here, and here are my options. And so I've,
Oh, so you're really not
99% of the
looking
time,
even, you're just feeling where
I
that
can feel
notch
it.
is. Yeah, I love that.
Right. And that's, as a studio,
That's cool.
recall is not that hard.
Yeah.
It
do
is
you
a
have
little
the
ugly.
do you have the screw of the knob
No.
set to be all the, or how
It's
do
in
you?
the house. I can't grab it.
That's
I
awesome.
literally carved in a little triangle
Amazing.
and at two different spots in the pick guard. And so I just do
Yep. Cool.
it. 99% of the time I am tone wide open.
Yeah. Cool.
But I have a lot of people I really respect that would say I never have my tone wide open.
Yep. Yep.
What do you do, Nick?
Yeah. What do you do, Nick?
Dude, all right, I'm going to kick it back to the guitar player thing. So,
Okay.
I think when you're coming up playing and you don't have all the pedals you want, especially for gain staging's sake, you learn to play the volume knob, you learn to play the tone knobs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, not one single song is repeated in where I put that tone.
Wow.
Nice.
I literally play it as the instrument.
I
I
love
am
that.
always moving tone, especially because, man, you get all these house amps and you plug in or you're on the road and you're playing with a back line. Sometimes it's just acting weird on it. I am just so accustomed to working with the way it hits the mix, working with the guitar player that you're with, working for the song. And then the other huge thing that I'm really going for is I played 3 years of this P bass with labellas and just now have put these rounds on. So I'm missing it. So to get back in that realm, I find that if you notch to 9 instead of 10 you go to 9 on the volume and then you pull tone to 5, 6. It's I can almost get there mentally.
Feel
I play a little right.
Yeah.
I play a little higher up, almost to the fretboard, super light on the side of my thumb or something. I'll always try to move it to chase those moments, especially, you just never know. I play the gig I'm on right now is very old school country. So the flats are perfect, but everything else I do, I just need some kind of bite. I need some kind of rock and roll. I need some kind of I want some jangle, some clang, you know, old jangle clang.
Yes.
It's kind of amazing the hoops we will go through where it's I want strings that are broken in, let's say 8 months, 8 month broken in round wounds, but I leave my tone open.
Yeah.
But another guy's changing his strings, but his tone's half off all the time.
Yes.
Right.
It's what a game we play.
It's wild.
I tell you what, we are playing this stinking game. We're
I love
bass
that
players,
this is
you know.
becoming just this is the P bass hour.
And I
All
love
for
what you said
bass.
about, it's what sounds right for that song, right? And what sounds right.
Sure,
So it's always fluid and moving, but sometimes, it's either wide open or back, back a notch or
That's
something,
awesome.
back a couple notches. But I ran into Mike Elizondo the other day. He's friends with my brother-in-law. And so I was talking to him briefly, and I'd never met him before, big fan of his. And I just thought, I'm just going to ask him. And I asked him where he keeps his all the way off, and looked and looked at me like, what are you talking about? Like, yeah, it's off. Turn the tone knob off.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Pino's Questlove. Exactly. Yeah. Pino's Questlove interview.
Mm-hmm.
All the way off.
The bass interview heard around the world.
Seriously, man.
Yeah, that echoed around the world.
I have tried so
that's
hard
wild to me.
Even almost be able to talk in his sphere with this podcast. I don't know if it'll ever happen.
Yeah.
That's my.
Oh yeah, man.
If anybody's got a
He'll be
vision
on.
board, if anybody's the praying type,
He'll be on. Which one?
That's
Pino
what we're
or
working
Mike?
for.
Or both?
Pino.
Okay, yeah.
Pino.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that's
So,
fascinating because, right? That's a whole different. It really is a different, sonic instrument at that
If
point.
you showed up on a session tomorrow with your P bass and your tone all the way down as the default, would you get laughed out of the room?
I wouldn't get laughed out of the room, but I wouldn't get called back. And I know that sounds might sound harsh, but another very wise friend of mine named Bob Mader, older drummer in town that I've known for years, dear friend, told me you never get fired on the session, you get fired in the mix.
Oh, very nice.
You can take away the mix engineer can take away your tone knob. He can make it sound duller.
Quick.
Quick.
You can always darken. You can't brighten.
You just can't, add the tone. So it's better to have than not. And I think it's a common, thing that some guys run into that where it's as bass players, I love Peanut, man. It's like, how many hours have we all spent listening
Practically a god.
to this style that's really taken the instrument, into a new function where, it's another melodic thing that's happening way down there, right? With his style with D'Angelo or Sean Hurley in some way, his great playing.
I mean, he's got a style, right? And he's got a thing. So his work with D'Angelo and all that, like, it's so good and it's so specific that people hire him for that.
Right.
So he shows up
Right.
with the expectation that he's bringing that old thumpy like situation. And that's, because you're at that point, you're the man.
Yes. But I guess
you are.
I remembered my point. How many low guitars are on the D'Angelo record? Anywhere close to where the bass frequencies are happening. There's
right.
hardly
Totally.
any,
Nothing.
right?
Yeah.
And unbelievable guitar playing on those records. But, we can't expect as bass players, we can't learn these Pino lines and that sound and get that style down and expect to walk into a circumstance where an electric guitar player is putting down a rhythm pass, another little higher rhythm pass, a baritone that's going even lower, and then he starts and then his job is to get some more melodic stuff, happening.
Right.
So we've got to compete with that and a keyboard left hand, to which, it just becomes, you're just going to get swallowed if your tone knob's off and you're playing on a
I totally
session,
agree.
in my opinion.
I totally agree. And let me throw this on the other side of things. In the live setting, I think the war is the exact opposite way.
Yeah.
I've kind of talked before about we're just obsessed with like stadium boomy kick. And all that does, especially with how most live engineers want a bass. Like, for instance, yesterday I'm playing, there's these massive hung subs right above my head.
Wow.
And the whole time I'm sending this pretty like rock and roll, not a lot of low end tone. Like I do not have the deep switch on. I don't have any kind of low pass filter. I'm not boosting any bass. It's like a DI. I'm literally boosting mids and adding saturation. Like that's it. And I am just boomy, and then the kick is even boomier. I'm like, okay, so there's no clarity at all. I played the whole gig with a drive pedal on to add tone because you're just like, this is adding no contextual musicality to anything at this point. And no disrespect to whoever was mixing, but it's like this doesn't add anything. You kind of have to move sonic spaces because when your allowance is like 100 hertz of bandwidth, you're just like, okay, cool. Well, kick drum's taking all the low, guitar's taking the mids.
I feel like live too, the way things have gone with the festival mix.
Oh yeah.
We talk about like, with producers, especially, like, does the bass get the low lows or does the kick get the low
Mm-hmm.
lows? And usually the answer is like, they'll have a preference, but they'll say whatever the song calls for.
Mm-hmm.
Festival mixes always have the kick.
Right.
Like it's kick,
God.
snare, vocal.
Yep.
And then you can kind of pick with your bass if you're going to be heard or not.
Yeah.
And truthfully, when you do hear a P bass, a lot of people are given like a really dark tone. It gets a little nasally and honky, and then when people play, you're just out.
Yeah.
Or it is a lot brighter than you'd expect to hear. And once other instruments start playing, it is like it's magic. We saw Counting Crows at Railbird a year ago or something, and I don't remember the bass guitarist's name. Oh man, we really need to see if he'll come on the show. He brought a B-15 live.
Oh wow!
And it was not
just
what
the B-15.
The internet. I'm sure he had a pedal board, but I couldn't see it.
No SVTs, no like.
No, B-15,
810s.
RE20 on it.
Yeah, cool.
And in-ears.
Amazing.
And I was like, it was the best bass tone of the entire festival.
Yeah.
He wasn't, it was round wounds into a B-15.
Yeah.
And the internet tells you the B-15 is this dark, honky, like, well, everyone assumes Pinot, which that's amazing. But I have a B-15 sitting behind me, and I think you have a B-15.
Yep, it's sitting right there.
It's pretty dang clean.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
What's your experience with the amp in the studio? Are people calling you to bring it? Are you what is that?
I feel like in live world and in studio world, we're facing a time when more and more people are simulating and using pedals, and it's cool, or Kempers or whatever, and it's cool, but it's just some of them, a lot of them sound amazing. And you'll make great records with those. But I'm kind of might be in the party that dies on the amp hill because I just don't even, especially live, having that moving some air live to me is really, really important. Now, in most session world, I wouldn't be surprised if I showed up and I do usually have an amp and a DI, and then usually there's another DI that might just be super clean because I'm sending a rig, that I've got a preamp I really love and a couple other things. But
we got to talk about that in a second.
We will. Beyond that, they're still going to take their clean DI. And I understand why. It's because at the end of the day, a DI bass has all the spectrum you need, and inevitably in an amp, there's so much, they're just going to be scooped or shaped in a certain way that there could be the potential for that engineer to not have where they want to boost or whatever, or cut.
Right.
So, all that to say, I've been bringing, when I have like cartage and everything, there's the B-15 there, but which I'm using a head, which was made by Austin Hooks, who's really great, makes these projector amps, makes them for Blake Mills. And this is the space heater that a lot of bass players have. That's why I wanted to play this stuff. Maybe, I could just throw this mic in front of it. Maybe we could try that. But that's the space heater. I've got it going through the B-15, which is really cool. It's 5-watt amp. I've been playing that a lot. Like if I have something live. I've been bringing that.
The space heater.
Yeah.
You're running it through the B-15 cabinet?
Yep.
Okay. And you're bypassing the regular B-15
right.
head?
The B-15 head's over here, which I use too, which I love. But maybe just having it for years, ready for something different. And this 5-watt amp is cool because of the crunch and all that. And then the other thing that I've been doing that I've loved and that everyone's catching on to is the PV Decade. Are you familiar with that?
Well,
Josh
I'm familiar with it
Homme-
because of the hype.
Yeah, the hype. And and it, man, it's really, it's just really cool. It's just really cool. So yeah. Fuck it, man. I'm going to turn it on.
So, audio listeners, you will know the result of if we were able to make that sound good like it did in person. And if it didn't, here we are. We're back.
What up?
And we will figure out how to go through that. Okay.
Worst case, we might need a little East Nashville throwdown. Little
man.
little
That'd
tone
be great.
demo, maybe. Who knows?
we will be in the area.
I'd love
Who
that.
makes the
I
heater
am in the
again?
area. I live in the area.
The amp.
Yeah.
So it's a guy named Austin Hooks. He's in Austin. His name's Austin.
Austin
His name's
Hooks.
Austin Hooks. He's in Austin, Texas.
Modded space heater.
And he makes,
Oh yeah.
that sound that Blake Mills gets when he's breaking it up, when it's breaking up with the slide,
Right.
That dude is
That's-
next level.
Not necessarily the space heater, but another model the guy makes that's
Right.
the projector. I mean, they're both from military projectors. They're 5 watt,
Oh, I am.
So you don't have to
into
get, there's other
this.
people making these and they're 5 watts and they just start crunching up, at a certain point really well.
That's awesome.
And it's just it's a vibe. So yeah.
Yeah, dude, P-Bass just straight into an amp is such a vibe.
And he
I
sells
think-
straight to reverb.
I
it
think
looks
on
like.
that note, I think what's so cool about, to answer your question, is because DI does have that full picture of the low end that anybody's going to have all day long, anything they need. Why we don't have to worry about that with the amp as bass players.
Right.
We want to move air and have character, and it needs the gnarlier it is in person or just soloed.
Oh, yeah.
The gnarlier it is, just the more its character it's going to have. The more
Yeah.
it's almost not even like character. It's almost like just it's going to sit in the mix so much better. I'm gonna walk in the control room and hear myself, man. And so
Right.
that's another
Yeah.
thing. I would love to talk a little bit about is that with bass, especially, I think bass players fall into this little bit of a trap of what sounds good playing by yourself, and in the context of just being alone, or maybe you're playing along to
Huge.
records and you're learning parts and it's great, but your sound is not necessarily a sound that is going to cut through, right? And that's the whole name of the game, is
Right.
we want to be heard, right?
Right.
And the adding bass to bass is the kind of, in some ways, the opposite answer of that,
Right.
solution of that problem, because it's already a bass. And like I said, with the DI that every engineer is probably going to take, and in every studio you go to, they're going to have the low end. So,
Right.
and they don't need it scooped in such a way that, with EQ is gain, right? And I think so many people don't think of it like that. And the sort of the water, the surface level of the water is your highest point is going to be what you're boosting.
Yep.
So if you're boosting 60 cycles, nobody's going to hear the point of the note or any of the character you're adding or all that
Right.
stuff. So anyway, and I say that honestly from years of walking into studios and walking into live situations with my Noble, which is an amazing DI, and it sounds amazing. And I had 2 of them at one point. Probably get another one someday. I don't have any right now, but they're great. And Jack's great.
They are great,
Jack's
aren't they?
amazing. They're awesome. And you turn,
We have a
but
little inside joke.
I was cranking, I'd be cranking bass, whatever. And then somebody's like, that's
Right.
10 dB.
Yeah.
What are you doing? You can't
Yeah.
do that. Not you can't do that.
Right.
But why would you do that? Because then the only thing that people are hearing when the bass faders, as far as it's going to go on whatever you're talking about, whether it's a mix engineer or live front of house, that high point is that note,
Yep.
or is that frequency.
Yeah.
So everything else is just way
Yeah.
below that.
Dude,
How far up on the bass are we talking? Let's get specific. How far
Well-
were you running it sometimes?
Are you talking about the knob?
Yeah.
I mean, if I had it at I think I would never have the treble on, and I would just have the bass 11 o'clock at the highest, not noon. But I see some
Right.
people cranking it even more than that, and it's just,
Right.
Yeah. And for people who might not realize who are listening, the Noble EQ is boost only. So having the treble off is not rolling off treble. It's not adding treble.
that's right.
right.
I actually really like the treble knob
Yeah.
on the Noble.
I don't know
I'm
where
pretty
it
obsessed
is.
with it.
Do you know where it is?
It's very high. It's
Yeah.
like
10.
5 or 6K.
Okay, yeah.
It's a shelf, and so it starts in that area.
Yeah.
And then it goes. It's basically an air band for bass,
Wow.
which is why I like it.
Yeah.
Live especially.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Okay. So we've kind of talked about the importance of the character amp. Two things with that. What, Nick?
One thing about this topic that's really been fascinating to me. I've been like listening to a lot of like old bass tones that I really, really love, but are like very odd decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And at the core of that, you notice these tones because they do poke in a mix. So some of these tones that I've been talking about. So Flea's bass line on You Ought to Know is the fartiest. Like, it's got a little bit of grit to it. It's like, you can tell he's just wringing the snot out of it because it's Flea. He's just smacking it. And you're like, dude, that sounds incredible because it doesn't take any of the sonic space of anything else. It's just that part. And that just proves your point. Like another example, the really weird chorus Music Man in, what's that Quiet Riot song? Bang Your Head, Mental Health. You know what I'm talking about?
Wow.
There's a really cool that it plunges you into that first verse, and there's this cool bass fill, and you're like, "What in the world is it?" It's always these weird tones that really, really grab you, and I've been so on that recently. Not to say like you have to have the weird tone, but to say like you want to be heard.
Yeah,
you know, step
Maybe
out a little
good
bit.
way to button it up is when you know the clean DI is going to be gospel. Like when you know they're going to go for it, as long as you have a way for that clean DI to be great, you actually have a little bit more leeway down the chain to have lots of character.
yes,
100%.
And when I kind of did we've done 2 videos. I did a B15 mic shootout. That
loved it.
Thank you. Not many people have watched, but that's okay. The real ones over time will discover it.
It's happening right now. They're watching it.
It's the definition of niche content, boys.
So, yeah.
I mean,
some
we are
people
in the
don't
weeds.
understand why I would think the SM57 on it is so good. And it's like, we're splitting hairs. Like if you have a budget or whatever, but if we know that this is going to be used as the top end of your bass,
Totally.
because 90% of the time, in my experience, engineers have chosen to cross over the bass frequency. They're going to take the clean low end from the DI. They're going to take the higher end from something with more character.
Totally.
So I've had I've had a nice, bass focused mic on my B15, right off the cone. It's right in the sweet spot, what I would call the sweet spot. And I look over and the engineers are putting it dead center on the cone, somewhere I would never put it because they want more grindy, whatever character. Then you get a pedal board like mine and it goes tuner noble. There's an out there. Then the rest of the pedals, and then we go to the Jadfir Capo. That's my like ending DI situation. But it's like, why have you gone through all that trouble to have the Noble, which is this high end whatever, at the front? And it's because most times I'm going to go to a studio, they're going to take that and they're not going to let me have any fun after that. And that's okay.
No
so
fun.
I can kind of control it a little bit. I can put my favorite device there, just do a little tiny bit of EQ or lie and say I'm not doing any EQ. And then have fun at the amp and the pedals after that.
Totally.
But
I love
you
it.
have to start with that DI. So tell me, what is your DI of choice right now in the studio?
I've always loved, this was something I picked up from a great bass player named Tony Lucido, who you guys should have on the podcast. He's a Nashville session player. And he always said,
Sick.
API transients, or API's got great fast transients, right?
Gotcha.
A Brent Averill from a 312 card, Huntington preamp, like it's basically an old, 312 from a console that he was famous for modding out. And so that's the preamp that I hit. And sometimes
just so we're clear, that would be an API
312
preamp
API
rebuilt
preamp
by Brent.
Yep, 312, which I find this older one to be kind of just inevitable. It's just beat everything else. I've compared it to the newer API like 312, the newer API 512, the newer Cappy stuff, and there's something about those old cards. I guess it's what they say, but it wins all the time. So I love that. And sometimes I've just got that, but a lot of times I have a little EQ where I've got the Pultec, what do they call it? The EQP 500. It's their 500 series Pultec, and which is not everybody can afford that. I get that, and it's expensive for one single channel of EQ. But man, it's really cool. It'd be cool to play, for example, with it off and on, which I could do at some point in another video. And then I have the distressor pump. Well, it's the Empirical Labs pump, which is their 500 series distressor. And so I've gone through different compressors. I'm a little bit wondering if there are any unbelievable 500 series compressors. And I think there's something to just the space of a signal chain and the components and the capacitors and the transformers that you need that all our great favorite compressors are, right? Like, an LA, if you think about the size of an LA2A and a Tube Tech and all these,
massive.
Fairchild even, I've tried the Gates, I've tried a few different ones, and I really like this one. It's really great, but it's
nice.
It's kind of a cool, like, if I'm using it to affect the sound and squash and have this sort of like squishy, like big tone that's kind of popping in and out. So all that to say, I don't usually have that on to begin a session unless I know it's poppy leaning country,
right?
And it's going to be that thing.
Before you were bringing the APIs yourself,
yep.
Did you feel like a lot of people were leaning towards API for bass?
I think a lot of people do. A lot of people love Neve. Has been probably more popular, just somebody always having a Neve style or an old 1073, which I feel like used to be way more off. I used to see people with those more often than I do now. Now a lot of guys are just plugging in with a DI or not, and letting the engineer take whatever. And
I have some Neve. I have a rack. Well, I have some 1073s, and then I have an API 3124 4-channel API 312. And in the 312, my friend Bobby put Melcore style op amps.
Oh, cool.
So the 70 style op amps.
Yeah.
And ever since that, and the 3124 has that like 4-to-1 transformer tap thing that like it just knocks the gain down so that I don't have to like attenuate anything. Knocks the gain down. I can drive it harder. I'm not actually overdriving it. It's still like fairly clean.
Yeah.
And now I want everything to go through that.
Love it.
Like it's that. I always
remind me what that
test,
is. What is it? Who makes it?
It's an API.
Okay, great.
It's a rack of 4 API 312s.
Yeah, got it.
And so it's got the Melcore op amp, which is 70s style.
Yeah.
And it just, I've always chosen Neve in a blind test online on YouTube or whatever, but when I plugged my bass into it in the studio and I had the Neve and the API, I go, oh,
amazing!
I get it now. This is my thing, and that's why
what about that?
Love their pedals.
Was it the? Do you feel like was the grab or the transient?
I do think it's the transient.
Yeah, I think it is.
Feels,
it's just the quickest.
Yeah, the Neve, when I plug into the Neve, I thought it felt a little woolier, like a little bigger, whatever. But the top end was extremely clean. And then you can look on all the nerdy YouTube guys that are like, people say API is cleaner than Neve, but when you actually saturate it, it's way dirtier. Yeah. That's the truth. That's the real truth. The API is dirtier, and it has this pristine, I don't know, it just sounds like a record to me. When the Neve thing, it's a little darker, and that's cool, and that has a thing. But when I plug it into the API, I'm like, it feels like the best tone I've ever wanted, kind of thing. I don't know how else to describe it. It's Transformers.
Yep.
But
I really want to try
that's
Audioscapes.
Been your experience too?
Audioscape's got a two preamp with those types of was it called Melcore?
Yeah, Melcore was
they've got a thing. I really want to check those out. Those sound great. But yeah, I think it's, it's kind of the thing we were talking about with the tone knob and just, and a boutique DI pedal. It's like yes, we want the quickest route to sound like Pinot, but in reality, what we want is to be heard and to be functional and for other people to go look over at you and go, Yeah, fuck
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
what you're doing,
Yeah.
cool.
Right.
Want
That's
that guy, I
adding
want
to
him
this.
back. You know, I
Yep.
appreciate the support I'm getting, whatever they're doing, right? And the quickest thing for that for me has always been I can now when I don't have it and I go into a situation, which is fine if engineers got their own thing they want to do. Recently, I was doing a record producer who had a 610 MK2. Those are great, and he had it modded, and it sounded really cool. But I could just it. I wouldn't say
It's
it
not
made
the
me
same.
play different, but I was cognizant of the fact that where I'm used to putting the beginning of a note wasn't
Uh-huh.
necessarily as, firing off as fast. It felt like I was running in shoes that didn't have as much tread. And for us,
Yeah.
man, we, especially like the bass is the bass and the DI is the DI, and it's going to have this huge sonic picture. So we don't need to add more low. We don't need more delay, or we don't need more
Yeah.
of that kind of vibe. We need attack, and we need mids, right?
Yep. We need the meat, the
Yep.
MIDI meat.
The meat.
Before we wrap, we got to talk about the decade amp too.
Let's roll to it.
Wanna do it?
Let's do it.
Okay.
We got a lightning round. The PV decade.
Yes.
The Josh Homme, Eric Valentine.
Yep.
Queens of the Stone Age. Yeah, give it to me.
Everyone's about to know. I've been bringing it to sessions.
Reverb
and
prices will never be the
It'll
same.
never be the same. And now they have a line. Did you see that at NAMM? I saw
They
a
have what?
picture. They PV's coming out with the Josh Homme PV amp.
Amazing.
Yes, and like there's different models, and you can, chain them together. You can bypass, like run multiple ones in series. I'm like, oh, this is so sick because
That rules.
literally, however, when before that interview came out, you could buy these amps for $15.
Yep. It's
And
a
I spent
travesty.
$200 on this, and I feel like I got a good deal at
Yeah.
what they're going for. But this thing is all snarl.
So we've got the PV decade, the super characterful, fun Josh Homme style, Queens of the Stone Age, disgusting in the best way. We've got the API pre's that are kind of your jam.
Yep.
Sadowski basses, vintage Fenders. What in the last second that we've got?
Yep.
What's kind of the little piece of gear or the little fun thing or even music? Like what has got a bug in your ear right now that you're like fascinated with as a
man.
fellow gear obsessive
Oh, man.
person? What are you into right now?
Well, I'd probably talk about the Wolf Box, just because I've had
Yeah?
that for years, and that's been kind of a thing that.
What's the Wolf Box?
So,
I've never even
well,
heard of
it's
that.
like, well, you've seen the Acme Motown DIs, right?
Uh-huh.
So
Yep.
that's the same thing, except those don't have the right transformers in it. This is just like one I've made, I've had a friend put this together, but it's got the Triad
I want one of those. I need
A11J
it.
or A12J. Do you guys know what I'm talking about now? Those
I do.
the Wolf Box, yeah. So
Oh, I don't know the Wolf Box, but
Well-
I know that everyone hunts down those transformers,
Yes.
wires them up.
Yep.
Because that is the Motown D. It's just a good DI with a good it's that transformer.
And there's something about the way it treats low end. Now, a few years ago, I started having a friend build these, and I was just buying them when they pop up on Reverb, and they weren't ridiculous. I'd buy them and sell them, and it was selfish. It was a way for me to go through them because every single one is different. Every single one was different. And I've got sessions with me playing like the same bass, everything. The only thing I'm changing is the box.
I love this.
And it's different. So, I probably had 10 of them. I probably had 10 of them made and sold them to different friends and different players around town. And
Do you still have a stockpile?
I have two. I have two of them, and I'm like,
we should talk.
well,
you should let me know
come
when you
on,
find
man.
one.
I mean, come borrow one and see if you. I just really love especially talking about like the transient and like the beginning and
Yeah.
the character. Like they have always, since I started using them with the real transformers, not just a green Motown DI.
Mm-hmm.
I just have always loved that, and it always felt like I could confidently avoid the situation where I'm sitting in a studio going, why does everyone else sound amazing and I can't hear the bass? Even though I'm cranking myself up, and then I walk in the control room and I'm not hearing am I playing on this session? Am I dreaming? And
hey, folks who are listening, I want to point out this is not the first person to literally say this. This is exactly what JT Cure said when we were talking about his DIs. It's the exact same. So the real ones, like, listen up. This is the second time we've heard this is the way, Yeah,
like, I mean, a passive DI is really, active DIs are great, but just a clean DI is what, is what you want. And it's not sexy, unfortunately, and it's not bassy necessarily, but it is, but it really, it actually is the thing that's
right.
So you're hitting that UTC. Is it a UTC transformer?
No, it's Triad is the company. I think UTC,
Triad.
Maybe they're the same thing. I don't know. Maybe they were like related or whatever, but the Triad, I've always read them, Triad A11J, A12J are the two that the engineer in Motown in Detroit had tried through a bunch, and that's what the guitar players and Jamerson plugged into,
Yeah. So you're hitting that, and then you're hitting your API lunchbox.
Yep.
You're boosting it up at the API.
Yep.
Are you driving it at the API, or are you
not
keeping
really?
it pretty
No,
clean?
not really trying to break it up there. If I'm going to add dirt, it's going to come either from a pedal or hopefully, like, the fun part about the Decade amp is its size, and it's so small. And when I bring it and say, "Hey, can we put this in the hallway?" You know, engineers are like, "Yeah, let's do it. That sounds like a blast," and they end up loving it. So, yeah, I mean,
what are you doing at the Pultec? Are you doing the boost low and attenuate low thing?
Yep, I'm bumping 70. I've got it on 3 and the attenuate on 1. So just a little, and then I'll
it does
toggle
that, like,
on that
thing.
Yeah, well, I think it just shapes it's almost like, to me, it's more like camera being in focus or out of focus on that bump.
Because
right?
that attenuate does a
down.
tiny little mid scoop and a tiny little bass boost at 70, which is not 60 like we were just talking about. That's Mr. Kick Drum.
Yep.
Like, you got to go above that.
And sometimes I've found myself going to 40 for more pop, like 5-string.
Oh, yeah.
When I'm down there, and we're at that point, we are dancing with bass, with synths, right? We're going to dance with whatever else is going on in that low end. That 40 is really nice too sometimes.
That's when the bass gets the low lows and the kick drum gets all of the volume.
Yes.
Because it doesn't have that info, so it can be smacking. Okay, this has been amazing. This has been one of our longer podcasts in the best way, which is great. So I will make this commitment between God and man, but really it's just the people who have listened this far. We will have more of this. We will go over to his house if we have to and put a real mic in front of these amps. Oh, yeah. And we will chat more about it. And, maybe we have to chat on another podcast. Who knows?
Let's do it.
So
that was good.
We will make it happen. It has been amazing. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, guys. This was a blast. Yeah. See you soon.
Is there anything you want to pump? This is a late question. Is there anything you want to promote? You're like, hey, if you want more of me, go listen to blank.
Oh, I don't know.
The Jack White and Alicia Keys song you did,
sure.
maybe?
You can listen to that. That was a long time ago.
He's got a whole great website with lots of links. What's your thing right now?
Man, I'm really stoked. I played on some Ryan Hurd songs that are coming out. Okay. And not there's one that I think came out today that I didn't play on, but yeah, I'm really excited to hear those and hear how that turned out.
Very cool.
So, and just appreciate, everything. Very grateful for being able to be around in this community in Nashville, and keep
man.
playing.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you, guys.